Hello everyone. In this video, I will be going over data types and variables in Java. I think we covered a little bit about data types, but we'll go depth in data types and variables. So what we'll be doing is we'll be creating a program that calculates the area of a circle, and I'll introduce you to variables and what they do. So first thing, what is a variable? Variable is something that holds a value. So if you um, create a variable, the way you would create a variable in Java would be you have to define the data type. What data type would it be? So there are multiple data types we have. First, we have string as a data type, and string is just any word or number in quotations. So we have, let's say, you have a string is a data type, and the next thing you define is the name of that variable. So in this case, the name of the variable, I just called it name, or I can call it student name or something like that. And there, you cannot have, when you declare a variable, you cannot have a space or a special character in the name. You can only have underscore, and you can define it this way. There are two ways you can define it. One is with the underscore, or the other way you can define it with the camel case. Camel case would be you start lowercase and then have a hump in the middle, so that would be a camel case student name. So there are two ways you should be defining a variable. One is camel case, and the other one is with underscore. So once you have defined it something like this, try to stay consistent and do not change the way you define the names throughout your code. So if you use the underscore, make sure the whole program is using underscore. If you're using a camel case, make sure you're using camel case throughout. So I'll stick with the camel case for right now. All right, so now you define the data type, the name of the variable, and then what you want that variable to be to store it. So in this case, I'll just type in my name, student name in this case will be mine, and now this value is stored into this variable, and that is a type of a string. And if I wanted to use later in the course, later in the code, I can actually refer to that using the name I provided. So I can just print out student name just like this, and that would go in and look for what is saved in the variable and print it out. So I can run it, and I will actually print out my name right there. I can go back and change the value, and if I just want the first name, and I can just do something like this, and that would just print my name. If I want to override a variable, whatever is stored, you want to override it. So what you can do is you can call the name of the variable and then reset it. So you can do Usman Rizvi, and that will override whatever was assigned before. But remember, I'm not declaring it. When you declare it, you get to define the data type. But when you override it or reusing it, you don't define the data type. So I can run it. Now it'll be printed Usman Rizvi. All right. So the one thing I cannot do, I cannot come in here and keep using the same name again and again when you declare it. This will actually give me an error because I already have the student name declared. I'm trying to declare it again. That is not allowed. So one thing you can do is student name 1, and now this is a different name, and that is allowed. So let's say it's John or something. And as soon as I can come in here and try to do this, this will give me a red error. And the error is student name is already defined in the scope. Right? So the scope is this function right here, main function. That's what they mean by the scope. All right. So we did declaration, we did override. And so we have string. The other data type is integer. And remember, integers are whole numbers. And integer, let's say GPA equals to, not GPA, let's do grade equals to 90, right? So now this is an integer. If I wanted to print it, I can just print it just like this. And let's try to make it look nicer. So let's do student name. Remember, we used plus sign before. What this does is does concatenation. So it's going to print this string first, and then concatenate whatever this variable holds. This variable holds my name is Usman, so that's what will be printed. So there will be two strings printed next to each other, just like this. And then I can keep going. I can keep concatenating. I can say grade. So grade, just like this, and I can keep concatenating new variables, just like this. So now the space is right here between the plus sign and the quotation does not matter, because that is just you're writing the code. But any space that you have inside the quotation does matter, because that turns into a string. Run it again, and then you'll have student name is this, grade is this, and the third data type we're going to be introducing is the double. So double is a decimal value. So we have a whole number, and then we have a decimal value. Let's do GPA, and let's do GPA equals to 3.4. So that is a decimal value. And doesn't matter if you just go and type in 3, this will automatically turn into a 3.0, right? So let's start with this, and then I'll show you how it's changed. All right, so now we have GPA, and then we're going to concatenate the variable name GPA to it, and then all of that will be printed on one line. Student name is this, grade is 90, GPA is 3.4. So now, even if I go to change this here declaration, remember this is where I'm declaring a variable double called GPA, holds the value 3, but it goes in as 3.0. Remember, double always holds a decimal value. So when you print it, it goes into memory and sees it's a double, and it's going to be a decimal value. All right. So now if you wanted to print this in a different line, what you can do is you can add new line character right there, and that will actually print it on separate lines. Just like this. Even though you have one print statement, but every time it gets to here, the cursor moves to the next line and it prints it. And then every time it gets here, the cursor moves to the next line and it prints whatever is afterwards. All right. All right, so that's how you declare, override variables. Let's actually write a program that calculates the area of a circle. So the area of a circle, the equation for that is, I'm actually going to delete all this. Is pi r squared. So pi, I'm just going to type it, pi times r squared. So you can, the other way you can write it is times r. So this would be known as the pi r squared and then the pi. So what you can do is you can declare a variable called double data type, call that pi equals 2, and that would be 3.14. So now we have a variable called pi, and now we can create a new variable called radius. And the radius we can name, put any number we want in there, and that would go in as 50. Let's say the radius is 50. And now to get the result of this, what you can do is it's going to be pi times radius, right? And then times radius like this. But you want to be able to store that somewhere. What you can do is you can just print that out in a system.out.println statement. That's great. But if you want to store it somewhere, you can create a new variable and set that equals to. So we'll go ahead and do that in a minute. But if you run this right now, this would be 50 times 50 times 3.14 is, that's the area of a circle with radius 50. So she reduced that by 5, so that is something 78.5. Right. So now we can create a new variable called area and equals 2, and we can take this equation and we can set it to that, and now area holds the result of this. Remember, it's not string or anything like that. So it's numbers. So this is actually going to do math and store it in area. So we can access it using the variable called area. So run it again. And we get the same exact result. And if you wanted to, we can actually format it. So we can do area. And we can concatenate. Remember, when we have strings, we can concatenate things together. But if we have integer or double, we can, when we use plus sign, that is actually a plus sign. We are doing addition. But if you have string, we're concatenating. Concatenating means you're putting two things right next to each other. So you have string, and then this area, whatever 78.5 gets converted to string and goes right next to each other. So if you run it, you get area colon space 78.5. Right. So that's the basis of the variables and 3 data types.